Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Caregiver's Toolbox, tools for everyday caregiving, where we give you information and education on senior care topics. And today, my exquisite guest is Tara Ballman, the executive director, the head honcho, the presidente, the everything to everybody of the National Aging in Place Council, in which I am a member of. I am not only a hair loss, I am not only a hair loss sufferer, but I'm also a client. And Tara, thank you so very much for being with us today to give an update on what's going on with the council.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, and it's always great to have a little introduction like that. That was perfect. Thank you. Although I will say, I went to the Rotary Club in Escondido last month, and they wrote a song for me. So
they wrote a song for you.
Up the introduction game.
I know, right? I mean, we got to get a guy that plays a saxophone or whatever that gentleman played when we interviewed him for your podcast.
Oh, that's right.
What instrument was that?
That was a trumpet.
Trumpet. It was the trumpet. Yes. So a gentleman, after we introduced him, he played a trumpet for a number of bars, and that was his intro. So if you want to listen to that, go check out the Talking Aging. Oh my God, what is it called again? What is our podcast?
Conversations with Tara and Ryan.
Conversations with Tara and Ryan. That's one. Cross promotion. So anyways, we've been part of the I've been part of the National Aging in Place Council for a number of years now. My renewal is coming up. I'm also on the board of directors, and I am the chair, which is kind of like the president of the Massachusetts chapter. So I'm certainly drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm ingrained, and to give people a background is that the reason I got into this is because we provide private home care to rich people. And we wanted to be part of an organization that didn't just cater to people that had money, but helped everybody throughout Massachusetts that needed help. And so the National Aging in Place Council for us is a group of mainly senior care professionals, but it's open to anybody. And our priorities are raising funds to grow the chapter as well as donate towards Habitat for Humanity's urgent need repairs. And then we are also currently in the process of finding heating and oil companies throughout the Massachusetts area so that we can deposit funds into their accounts to help seniors pay for their oil bills. So our idea is that instead of just having one, since our group is a wide breadth of around Massachusetts, we could have one in the North Shore, one kind of in central outside of Boston, and the kind of directly west, and then find another heating and oil company on the South Shore, so that we are sharing those funds equally depending on obviously where our members are. So it allows everybody to feel like their residents at the towns that they service are getting a benefit from the National Aging in Place Council. So that's kind of what our group is about. And Tara Ballman has been, and she hasn't even talked, and I keep talking, but Tara Ballman, the executive director, has been the one that is really kind of, been the driving force behind all of this. And so we've had you on before, Tara. We've done a lot of work and chatting before, but what has kind of changed, and what are some of the updates with the National Aging in Place Council?
Oh gosh, there's so much that's gone on. I can't remember when we last spoke, but probably a couple of years ago. But it's really exciting to hear what your chapter is focusing on up there with the heating and the utilities. That's really a needed service. So that's awesome to hear that you're doing that. But yeah, we've really been growing since post-COVID. I think people are realizing that aging in place isn't just for older folks. So it's opened up a lot of doors for us and changed the way a lot of people think about aging and what you need at home to stay safe and secure and financially secure as well. Everything is getting really expensive these days. I know you're in Boston, I'm over here in California, and we probably live in some of the more expensive areas of the country. So we're really just helping people connect to those resources and share even more about the resources, what's out there. Our mission is really kind of threefold. We collaborate with other professionals and communities. We educate, which is really our main focus. And then we've recently gotten a little bit more involved in advocacy. And in the last year, I would say our advocacy committee has taken off, and we regularly have between 50 and 80 people that attend those meetings. So it's really great to see people across the country from every area of the aging services marketplace. You're in home care, we're in PT, but we even have, declutterers and dog walkers and mobile dentists who are getting involved, because we all know once you walk into someone's home, you're not there for just the thing you walked in the home for. You see other issues or other things just come up. So it's really great to be able to connect everyone that way. And the advocacy committee, our newest legislation that we're supporting, I know once we find a sponsor, the name will probably change, but we're calling it the Accessible Home Act, because we can call it the AHA. So there's so many marketing ways you could take that with the AHA, but initially what we're asking for is a $5,000 tax break, one-time use, for anyone making aging in place related modifications to their home. So once we actually get our foot in the door and can show utilization rates and how it's helping folks, we can ask for additional funds. If you've been in this industry for very long, $5,000 you could spend like that on just, replacing handbars in the bathrooms. But at least it gets us in the door and gets people talking and brings these issues to light. And helping older adults is something that I feel like, with the political arena the way it is right now, everyone fights about everything, but I think older adults are an area where we can come together, because we all know the future that we have with the way the population is growing and the numbers are changing, and younger folks are going to be outnumbered. So I think this is an area we can come together and work together despite our political backgrounds.
No, absolutely. And when people think about that type of advocacy, that money is going to get spent one way or another, whether it's in modifying somebody's home to be safer, or when that fall occurs and they go to a hospital and then they go to a nursing home and rehab. You'll spend. So it's very much a little bit of spending up front should, in the long run, be able to provide people with spending breaks, because just saving one or two trips to an emergency room will be a return on investment of $5,000 or $8,000 of maybe 20x in some situations. So I know about some of these types of things, because Rhode Island has a livable home modification grant that's up to that the state is willing to pay up to 50%, up to I think it's 50% of up to $8,000. So they're willing to pay $4,000 towards the grant, 50% of that. I know Massachusetts has tried to do things like that, but I just don't know if it finally got its final push through. But it is one of those things where, yeah, it certainly will benefit home modification companies, but in the end, it will keep people safe. And even if you're able to put in grab bars and put in railings that are load bearing when going up and down stairwells and in the home and outside the home, you will preventing even just a few falls and hospital trips is going to easily pay for itself. So it should be something we all get behind.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just a trip in the ambulance to the emergency room could be that much in some cases, depending on where you are in the country. But kind of the problem with the landscape as it is now is people are saying, oh, well, this is a tax break, so it's only over in this column, when really it's saving, say, the Medicare and Medicaid column, thousands and thousands of dollars, but those two columns on paper are separate. So I think we're just going to have to get people really changing the conversation and the way that we look at things. But there's also other legislation that's going through that we would like to support. And I should have looked up the name of it before I came on here to talk to you, but it's from a home health nonprofit organization. I believe it's Moving Home Health, but they're supporting legislation that actually does have sponsors now, and it's getting some legs that would allow for personal assistants to come in and help folks under Part B Medicare benefits for up to 90 days, just to help with activities of daily living. So that would be fantastic for those folks that are on Medicare, on fixed incomes, can't pay for someone, a home health agency to come in, but just needs a little bit of help, and then can partner with home health agencies that are Medicare approved and have taken those next steps to, really care for seniors and how to care for seniors or older adults. So.
Yeah, and so it's a good overview and gives people an idea of what the NAIPC is all about, because we're an organization that's focused on donating our time and efforts to helping the cause of underrepresented seniors that need help and are easily forgotten. Our society, and I've said it on many podcasts, is once you are unable to work, you are of no use to us, and until then you get shipped off to a nursing home and quickly forgotten about. And that doesn't mean every person in a nursing home is the devil or a great parent or a bad parent. There's lots of family dynamics that get involved in this, but overall, as a culture, we tend to, out of sight, out of mind kind of situation. And when people are isolated and alone and mobility is tougher in their homes, people forget about those individuals, and then all of a sudden down the road that ends up becoming a real problem in our communities and for our wallets and checkbooks, because then we have to pay for these emergency services when we could have been proactive about that. And so hopefully people are able to use the NAIPC as the resource that it is to find the services that they're looking for that can help people age in place and be safe in place as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my least favorite things that I hear are when folks are encouraged to spend down their funds, middle income or middle lower income folks, just spend it down, then you can qualify for Medicaid. But what they're not realizing is then you're a ward of the state, then you are stuck in an area and in conditions with certain doctors that you have no say in because you're in a certain system. So we're trying to help, specifically me, I would love to help the middle and lower middle income folks not have to decide to spend all their money or continue living in the manner in which they're living. So just connecting those resources. There's so much out there that can help folks, but a lot of times they just don't find out about it until it's way too late. The expiration date has passed.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've even told people, like, we'll take every last dollar you have you want to allocate to private home care, but you would be wise to walk into a nursing home with $100,000 in your pocket or whatever it is now, to be able to say, hey, I can pay cash for a year. And you would be surprised how many red carpets start getting rolled out when you've got that kind of cash, versus sitting there and saying, hey, I've got 10 grand that can maybe pay for a month of services before I have to be transferred over to Medicaid. And so, I mean, it's the sad reality of that. And the other problem is, just to be informative to people, the problem is a lot of people, middle class and upper middle class and the rich, are putting their money into trusts. So that when they're 60 years old or 65 years old, that money goes into a trust that cannot be touched by the state. It is its own entity. So they can use that as they see fit for their daily living expenditures. But then when it comes to needing Medicare or more importantly, Medicaid, there is no look back period, because that money is, as far as the state is concerned, it's gone. And so, what we are experiencing is the ability for those that have money to be able to hide it, so that those that do not have money are living in worse and worse conditions. And that kind of socialism model of nursing homes is quickly and rapidly evaporating, because the rich are paying all their money to avoid it, or putting their money into to trust, so that when they do go to that nursing home, they're on Medicaid benefits rather than private pay benefits. So it's a complicated issue and gets very class warfare very quickly, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, you would be surprised the number of folks here in Orange County where, we do mobile physical therapy. So we'll pull up to someone's home and here comes the son in a Lamborghini, but then the insurance that the mom gives us is like a medi type situation. And yeah, there's so many different angles to it. And most of the time people only talk about like housing or finance or healthcare, but NAIPC is built on what we consider the 5 pillars of aging. The other 2 are transportation and social engagement. People, the elder care locator number receives the majority of their calls about transportation, and it's kind of the one little thing that in this whole aspect of things people just aren't talking about. Like, it's not going to happen, bam, I can't drive anymore. Oh, then there goes your health care, there goes your social interaction. There's so much all that's related, that there's so many aspects of it.
And if I was king for the day, one of my first things I would do is I would eminent domain all around highways. I'd take a couple lanes of highways and I'd turn them into train stations that anybody can use. And if the highway goes there, so does a light rail or a subway, and build out the infrastructure, because that is a real problem that everybody has. And we see that not only in seniors, but even young people, and across every single age bracket, is that, it costs a lot of money, especially post-COVID, to have a car. And if you have infrastructure that people can rely on, which we can't rely on ours in Boston, but when you do, you have the ability for people to be able to move and live in affordable places outside of a city, but be able to travel into that city to be able to do the work that needs to be done. And right now, most cities don't have that ability, especially when you're dealing with seniors who have limited mobility, limited funds, and are even more isolated. So just because it benefits a senior, it also means that it likely will benefit all of society if you're able to have some of these things for them. If you have the infrastructure to have them be able to be mobile, then all the other people that need that would be willing to do it as well. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, absolutely. And you throw in a wheelchair, any kind of other medical equipment, and that puts a whole nother layer of issues on it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it makes things, we need to make things more accessible, not necessarily aging friendly, but just accessible to all, I think, is what we should be looking at for the future, for homes, for transportation, for, so many different things.
So the last podcast I did was with this guy, Ron Gold. And long story short, he was a Wall Street guy, was riding his bike competitively out on the streets, like his bicycle, like training, and he got hit by a car and became a paraplegic. And now he's in a wheelchair, and he went to a networking event after he started a home care company. His company's called Lean On We, and they had their networking event on the second floor of a building that had no elevator. And so they all felt terrible about it. It obviously was just kind of more of a brain fart. It wasn't intentionally done. But the point of bringing it up was, like, once he got thrust into that role, I don't know how old he is, but in his 40s or early 50s or whatever it was when all this happened, he got the experience what happens if you're 80 years old and you're in a mobility scooter or you're in a wheelchair, and all of a sudden it's a heck of a lot harder to get around and do these things, and those challenges that come with that. And I would imagine if all of us were forced to use a wheelchair for 2 months or 3 months, we would quickly be like, we need to change the way things are done, because people that have these mobility issues aren't being catered for. Even if it's just 2 or 3 steps, it makes it so much harder. And again, that universal design, people like you and me that are fine mobile, we don't even notice that it's there, but for those that have those issues, it's certainly a good thing. So it's good to bring up that how important transportation is for one of the 5 pillars of the NAIPC.
And the social engagement too. That's the other part people don't talk about, and that's huge, as we all found during COVID. That's a huge part of the plan, that people just assume their family's going to be there, or assume people are going to stop by the house and see them every day, but you can't really assume those kind of things anymore.
They really do go hand in hand, right? You can't really have the social engagement if you don't have the transportation to go somewhere to meet up with those individuals. Even if your social engagement is to a senior center, you still need to be able to get there, right? So, that's definitely a 1-2 combination. And then one of the things that I think would be good just to mention is, like, you were talking about your day job, which is PT. Well, your day job is the NIPC, but you also have your other day job, which is PT. But how did you go from the PT world to the NAIPC executive director world? What drew you into that? I don't even know that, I don't think.
Oh, really? Well, I've always been involved on some level with NAIPC. Even back 17 years ago, when it was just starting to form, I was living in Florida. So when I was out here in California and started to work with my boyfriend, then now husband, at his company, I said, hey, we need to get into this world. Let's see if there's a chapter here. There did happen to be a chapter here, and it was just a great way to network, with other professionals as we were trying to grow our business. So we had a group of people that we knew were background checked, so we knew they took the extra step to go through to prove that they were worthy of working with our patients. And then I have to tell you, that was, gosh, 10 or 11 years ago. And since then, I mean, we've got a couple of our best therapists from there. We've certainly got a ton of fantastic longtime clients, a lot of great referral sources. But yeah, I just started volunteering my time here locally, and then eventually worked my way up to the chair of the chapter here. We rotate through every 2 years here in Orange County. And once my time was up there, I was asked to serve on the National Board of Directors, which I did, and had a bunch of ideas related to programming and things I'd like to see that worked on local levels to do more nationally. So I kind of created my own position there as programming director. I just kind of made myself that and took it over, and nobody told me no. So I did that for about 3 years until, you know, in the middle of COVID. It was always kind of my secret goal to be running the organization, but it was never really possible since it is DC based and I'm here in California. But when the executive director retired during COVID and the management team decided to switch out kind of who was managing our group, it just opened doors for me to move into the executive director role. So can you believe that's been 2 years ago now? I can't believe time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Fun. Yes, fun. It's been a challenge getting things back because, you know, like everybody, you know, the NAAPC's foundation was getting together, meeting people, networking, and then having in-person events. And some of those events were more professional. Some of those were community events. Some of those were maybe member I'm not thinking of the right word, but when you kind of have like a member event to try to draw in new members, guest events to meet at a restaurant or something like that, you know, sponsorship events. But now things have really changed, and it's been everybody's comfort level with getting together has been different, and so, you know, it's been a real challenge of trying to figure out how do you cater to everybody wanting to kind of do Zooms, and the convenience factor of not having to drive around versus the value you get. You know, the saying I say is like, hey, listen, it's a heck of a lot easier to put a puzzle together when everybody's around the same table than trying to do it, you know, from separate rooms. So it's there's definitely value there of getting together, but it's a matter of, you know, slowly showing up and having everybody see that value again.
Yeah, for sure. We did a lot of presentations in senior centers and just a lot of educational events that we still do, but they don't always have the same kind of zing as in person. And I'm sure you have the same travel issues we have here, and all across the country. It seems like traffic has gone a little bonkers. So just not having to sit in traffic and fight for a parking space has been nice. But then when I get back out there and get to see people again, it's like, oh, this is why we meet in person. It's not about time and convenience, it's about connecting.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, going back to the 5 pillars, social interaction, while I would say that meeting on Zoom is some type of social interaction, there's no replacement for sitting down and being able to break bread or discuss things or have some real you know, conversations. I mean, so there's definitely a time and a place for that. But if our goal is to help seniors in social interaction, I think a senior that is unfamiliar with a Zoom or unfamiliar with a FaceTime, you know, how do you think about it this way? Like, how engaged are you with every single webinar you have to sit through? You know, or do you end up multitasking and turning off your camera and replying to emails while you're listening? Well, how do you think a senior is going to feel when they're in a senior center designed for social integration and interaction, and then all of a sudden there's some talking head on a TV screen? And so what is going, and then the other thing I will mention in my little soapbox here is that while it seems like, hey, well, when we're 80, there's going to be different technology than Zoom. And are you going to stay up with that technology? Because it's easy to say, well, when I'm 80 years old, I'll be okay with Zoom. Zoom's probably not going to be around when we're 80 years old. It's going to be a totally different thing that's done. And then are you going to be able to figure out how to put the contact in your eye and turn it on somehow so that you can see the visualization of the presentation and then take the contact out of you. I don't know, something like that. And then all of a sudden you put yourself in that perspective and you realize what, you might be at the same disadvantages that seniors are right now, right? But it's easy to forget about that when you've got to drive 20 minutes somewhere or whatever it is, and it's going to be a round trip of an extra hour in your day or whatever it might be.
Yeah, you know what I think will be interesting is in the future when we're 80, when we're at the senior centers for our music therapy, we're not going to be singing "You Are My Sunshine." Our generation's going to be requesting like 9 Inch Nails and Korn and Eminem. It's like that'll be interesting to see how they work.
Yeah, right. Huh? That'll be interesting to see when some of these really sexually explicit songs are being requested as the sing along for group time.
That's a party in a senior center right there.
Yeah, certainly. They were worried about STDs now, right? Like all of a sudden, whatever song from the 80s or 90s comes on, all of a sudden brings back those memories of the party. So yeah, I mean, it will be funny to see that. And who knows? We'll see. I guess we'll get there soon enough, but not too fast.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. I think by the time we're old and need that kind of assistance, hopefully by the time we need that kind of assistance, we might be living in a Jetson world. It might not look like the Jetsons cartoon, but I do believe that we will be catered to in a way that has never been before.
I totally agree. I mean, that's an excellent example. I stuttered. I got so excited. Think about. Do you understand what the hell is going on with AI right now? Like, I don't. It boggles my mind. You're already seeing not ads. You're seeing like things on Fox Business or CNBC News that's saying that IBM just let go of 6,000 people because AI can replace their job. So imagine like being 80 years old in a senior center and somehow AI is taking care of everything, and you've got to like figure it out when things aren't running as the oil is getting a little thick in the brain, we'll say, and you're just trying to figure out what is going on and how this is when our faculties are good now and most people are scratching their heads trying to figure out what AI is going to do. So, yeah, it's going to be real interesting. But maybe we need a 6th pillar of technology, Tara. Maybe that will come down in the next few years of part. We need to add that into the NAIPC's 5 pillars to 6 pillars. Who knows?
That's actually a good idea. My husband's just waiting for AI to write his physical therapy notes when he's done after every session. He's like, when are they getting the medical version of that, please?
Right, absolutely. So, other than that, I mean, I guess we can end things on with the NAIPC. Like, we have chapters. What are we up to? Nearly 20 chapters now.
If you count the ones in formation, yes, we've got 5 that we're working on right now on different stages, all across everywhere from Washington to Florida, California. It's very exciting. Mississippi, very exciting.
So, I mean, if you are interested in being part of the NAIPC, you don't necessarily have to join a chapter if there's not a chapter around you. You can be a member at large. There is a lot of programming, as Tara was the program executive director, the program something. There's a lot of whatever your title was, it dealt with programming. So there's a plethora of programming to choose from when you're looking at the NAIPC. But even better, if you're in an area that has a chapter, go reach out to them and check it out. And if you're in an area that doesn't have a chapter, it might be worthwhile reaching out and seeing what's involved in creating a chapter. And it really is finding 5, isn't it 5 colleagues or is it 10 colleagues? To
say 5 to 10, so one person doesn't get bogged down.
Gotcha. So 5 to 10 colleagues that want to get together and help your local community. So that's that shouldn't be too tall of a task to be able to do.
Yeah, and I always like to share, even if you are only working in a local area, and there is still value to being a national member. Just last month, we had someone call our office and say, "Hey, my mom is in Italy, fell and broke her leg on a cruise. if she had passed away, it would be easy to fly her back here. There's lots of transportations for bodies, but not for someone who needs surgery to get back to this country. And they had no idea what to do. And within 2 hours of sending that out to our network, she had 3 other options to get her mom back here. So even though you think a national organization can't help you, there are ways that we can support your work. So,
And to emphasize that, when my mom had her first seizure from the brain tumors, we didn't know she had. It was over in Portugal on a cruise ship. And so if she wasn't well enough to get on a plane on her own after the first seizures, she would have needed some type of help like that. So it isn't, when people are retired, they're gallivanting around the world enjoying their retirement, and medical emergencies can and do happen. So it's not as rare as you might think it is.
yeah, very true.
So, well, Tara, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, giving us an update.
Yeah, it's always fun.
Well, and so how do people reach? We got to end it the same way. How do people reach out to you? How should they, if they want to learn more, if they want to develop a chapter, what do they do? How do they get in touch with you?
First of all, I would suggest you visit our website, which is ageinplace.org. That will show you a little bit about who we are, what we are, has links to the other podcasts that Ryan and I do regularly, Conversations with Tara and Ryan, links to all of our educational resources, our YouTube channel. So just get an idea of who we are. And we are an education-driven mission, not a lead generation or networking, although that obviously does happen with our group. So if you'd like to learn more, you can reach out to me by email at naipc@ageinplace.org, and we will figure out how to support your work there with your own older adults.
I think that's a great way. Tara, thank you so much for the education. I think our listeners will find value in that. And of course, thank you all for listening, and to our ramblings, more specifically my ramblings. Tara was a perfect guest, and we will catch you on the next one.
Okay, and scene.